full name?
Okay. My full name is Betty Alice Davy and then Strombeck, married name Strombeck. I was born in 1938 at the beginning of the Second World War, which of course I didn't know anything about. But anyway, my first recollection is during the war, some of the later years, maybe I was 4 or 5 years old. My dad had 5 kids already, and he was called in to take an exam because they were getting hard up for guys. They didn't usually, bring guys into the army that had 4 or 5 kids at home, but it was getting bad, so they had called him. And back then, if they called you to get a physical, they just went. I mean, if they passed, they were gone. They didn't come home and say goodbye or nothing. So I remember he left that afternoon. And he had a bag, and so I remember saying we were in just a small apartment on the 2nd floor. And I remember we watched and watched and watched and watched. We were all lined up in that one or 2 windows there watching. And it was after dark sometime that, back then they had these old-fashioned street lights, and all you could see was just like a circle of light around it, and then it was dark kind of in between. But anyway, we saw kind of somebody walking down kind of the street. It was getting really dark. And when he walked into the light, under the light of the street light, we could see who it was, and it was him. He was coming home. So we were all thrilled, and he didn't have to go because he had 5. But if the war would have lasted a whole lot longer, he'd probably had to go because he was in good health. Anyway, he worked the whole time during the war. He even worked one of the war plants, and so that's what they did. If most of the plants, they were, instead of making cars and all that kind of stuff, they were making war things, bullets and everything else. So he was on the other end of the war, actually, as most guys, just working on that.
Tell us about your mother.
My mom. Well,
Her full name?
Her name is Dorothy Ruth Haley is her name, and Davy, then Davy.
And your dad's name too.
Yeah. My dad's name was Kenneth Roger Davy. Oh, that's right. My dad's name was Kenneth Roger Davy. He was from a little town called Urbana, Ohio. My mom was from Springfield. I don't remember how they met at a dance. My dad and his brothers and my dad and his brothers and their dad had a band, and it was all stringed, and they had a dance band, and my mom and dad were not believers at the time, and my mom met my dad at a dance, and they got married, and they had 2 kids. I think they had all 3 of us. I think I had just been born. They had us exactly 2 years apart. And my sister Ginger, who was the second one, she was about a year and a half. No, she was 2 years old when she got really, really bad sick. And I had just been born, I think, and they didn't expect her to live because something really bad, something like polio, which back then they didn't have vaccine for. And so my grandmother, my mother's mother, knew something about Christianity, and she knew that there was a church that believed in healing, although she hadn't been there, but she said she thought it was a pretty good place to go if they were looking for help for the baby. So they went to church, took the baby to church, and they anointed Ginger and prayed for her, and she got well. And so they went to church, but more than that, they got saved. My mom and dad got saved, and from then on, they were Christians. They lived the Christian life, and of course, eventually ended up in ministry. But anyway, it started out rough, but it was okay. He was working in a factory, and he worked there until God kind of opened it up for him to work in the ministry. What else?
Your mom?
My mom. Oh yeah, my mom's father was named Joshua. We love Joshua. That name Joshua. It's still in the family a lot. His name was Haley, Joshua Haley, and his father, I think, had been Joshua Haley, and they had a Joshua Haley, and he was a good guy, but he died after the war, probably in 50-something, maybe 55. He died from war wounds from the Second World War. He was sickly, and she kind of took care of him, and he died from war wounds. And she actually, no, he died before that. Because
no, he died in World War I, I thought she told me. Moo's father.
Moo's father.
What happened
in
World
War
War
I?
Yeah.
Well,
but it's World War I then.
That had been your father was World War II. It was her father World War I.
Her dad was. My My mom's dad. Oh yeah, he'd have to be in the First World War, not second.
Yeah.
But my dad.
She was
That's
born
what
in
you
the
said. They
teens.
had the
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Cold Warfare that affected his lungs.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
right. That's right. He was in the First World War. Yeah, that's right. I didn't know him, of course, but where was I now? I forgot. Who was I telling?
You're talking about your mom.
Oh, my mom. Yeah, her dad died when she was. I'm not sure exactly. She wasn't a teenager yet. I don't think.
2, I heard that.
Was she that young? 2 years old? Could be. You probably remember better than I do the stories. Anyway, my grandmother ended up marrying 3 times, kind of in a row, and none of them lived long. They all had either war wounds or something. They all died of war things in the lungs because back then, you know, during the war, the First World War, they used this gas that the guys, you know, got into their lungs, and so a lot of guys died even in the years after that from lung stuff, and both of her other husbands, all 3 of them died from war wounds. Then my mom's mom was single for quite a while. Then I remember the next one she had, and he died, and she had another one yet, and then she died before he did. But my mom's mom was really a hard worker. And she cooked. She was a good cook.
What was her name again?
Mary Haley. I forget what her maiden name was, but we just knew her as Haley, which is what Joshua Haley. And she was a really hard worker. And actually, she's the one that knew about the church where they took Ginger for healing, because she was a good lady. She didn't smoke or drink or nothing like that. She just didn't know the Lord very well, just, you know, from afar. But she got us into church, and she got my sister healed. So, and she always went to church with us, you know, after that when she was around. But so that was really our only introduction to church, because otherwise, like my dad's brothers and sisters and all that, none of them were believers. They were musicians in the world, but they weren't believers. God blessed us, at least with that. What else? Where am I? Where should we go from here?
Do you know anything about Kenneth, your father Kenneth's parents?
Yeah, I knew them well. He was from a small town called Urbana, and there was a real musical family. That's where the music in our family comes from. I mean, he was from a musical family. They played instruments galore and had a band, and they played at dances. That's where my mom and dad met. My mom was dancing, my dad was playing. And he played the guitar so well. He could pick the melody and strum the harmony at the same time, which you have to be really good to do. You either pick the melody or you strum the harmony, but he could do both.
The banjo or guitar?
The guitar, 6-string guitar. He played the banjo as well. He played that. It's a little different technique because it's only 4 strings. But they played all kinds of stringed instruments. And we used to get together. The Davies used to get together and just play. And when they came over, they'd bring their guitars and stuff, and we'd do hymns, although the rest of them didn't go to church, but my mom and dad did. My mom and dad became very strong believers, and my dad's mom came to the Lord before she went to be with the Lord, but I don't think his dad ever did.
What were their names again?
Let's see. One of his brothers was Ralph, and one of them was Dick. Let's see.
His parents' names?
His parents. His mom's name was Minnie. She was real quiet.
Minnie Hull, right? Was her maiden name?
Yeah, Minnie Hull was her name, Minnie Davy. And his dad, I remember his Facebook.
Wilbur?
Oh, Wilbur, you got it, Wilbur Davy. Wilbur, welcome. Wilbur, welcome, Davy. Yeah, he was a good musician. He was a really good musician. They all played really well. We got a lot of musicians in our family, and I'm sure it came down from them because they sang well and they played well. And so we just used it for the Lord. And they used it out in the world. We used it for the Lord. I've got a couple cousins that also from that line that have played in the Philharmonic here and there because they had music really well too. It really got into the Davy stream, the bloodline, like. There was a talent in the Davies from them, and it might have even come from before that. Who knows, But Rick's my dad's dad and his brothers were really, really good. I loved to sit and listen to them, you know, when I was young. It was so much fun. They were so talented.
Well, didn't you and your sisters have a music group or something for a while?
Yeah, my sisters and I, we sang together. My mom and dad sang together a long time. And then we as a family sang together a long time. And we were all growing up. We all sang. By that time, we were all in church. In fact, I didn't know anything but church. My dad became a pastor, I think, when I was like, I don't know, in elementary school somewhere.
I think you have a funny story about the first day that you played piano at church when you were young.
I was 11. Yeah, I was 11 years old, and they needed a pianist, and I had been plunking at home. I mean, just playing by ear, and I didn't learn to read until after I was playing well. But I would sit down and I'd just play what I heard, and then I finally got the chord structure, and I can remember how all of a sudden one day when I was sitting there, I was probably 11, I figured out how all the keys worked together, which key went to the next one, which chords led to the next one. It was just like all of a sudden, but I had been plunking, you know, and following. And we had during this time, we had a blind girl living with us for a couple of years who was real good, and she had a degree in music, and unbelievable. You know, she played classics and everything, but she had a good ear, and she played church music really nice, you know, with this touch, you know. And I watched her all the time, and I learned a lot from her as she was, you know, and I'd play in the upper thingies while she was playing in the lower thingies, but I learned a whole lot of harmony and how all these keys fit together.
Yeah.
And I remember so well when I finally figured out how it all was put together. And so then I started playing in church, and the memory I had was that when I played the piano that morning, because back then all you had was a piano and an organ, and nothing else was holy. You know, all my dad and all his brothers, we would love to have him in church now, as well as they played the guitar, but only you just did it with piano or organ. So I was playing the piano that day. First day I was 11. And of course I could play the hymns and everything else because I've been playing and singing at home. And the pianist didn't show up or something. My dad said, go play. So I played. And I remember after church, there was these two old ladies. They were walking around the church, and I happened to be walking behind them. And one of the ladies said, I don't know why Brother David let his daughter play the piano this morning. And the other lady just smiled and said something. I forgot what she said. And I thought to myself, you old bag, one of these days you will find out, because I'm going to play the piano really good one day. All it did was make me mad that she didn't recognize, you know, I can play. But anyway, I played and kept playing until I got better. And then I finally learned to read music after I went to college. What?